Hello there, I'm Tabletop Toby. Welcome to the Board Game Fun Phase. Today we're going to be talking about two games I'm excited about that are on crowdfunding right now. B.E.L.O.W, The Asylum, which is designed by Tomas Holek, who designed S.E.T.I and Galileo Galilei, two games that I really enjoy, and then also the latest expansion to Return to Dark Tower Expeditions. So we'll get to those in just a minute. First off, we're going to hit a piece of news. I woke up to an email just a couple days ago, and it was an update from Cthulhu Death May Die Forbidden Reaches campaign, of which I am a backer. I enjoy Cthulhu Death May Die. I like a little Ameritrash, dice chucking, strategery, cooperative fun. I enjoy many things in the Cthulhu kind of universe. And I think that's just kind of a fun, enjoyable, lighter one, but with enough strategy and challenge that it's a good one, I think. But its future has been a little in question, whether it's going to actually be delivered because of all the issues CMON has been having. It's been selling off different properties. It still had Cthulhu Death May Die, and I think Marvel United and a couple of other properties, but the question of some of those campaigns for those properties, including Cthulhu Death May Die Forbidden Reaches, has kind of been in question. However, the email I woke up to was that they had sold Cthulhu Death May Die, the property, to Asmodee. And so I woke up to this update email, and what it says is that they had sold the IP to Asmodee, but more importantly, in terms of the campaign specifically, it says this exciting change will help ensure the best possible support and continued development for the Forbidden Reaches project. And then it continues, what does this mean for you? For backers, almost nothing changes. Your pledges and rewards remain exactly as planned. That said, delivery will be delayed, but rest assured, Asmodee's top priority is to deliver the game you've been waiting for with the quality and care it deserves. So it makes it sound like that maybe part of the deal of them selling the property was that Asmodee agreed to deliver the Forbidden Reaches campaign. And maybe that was the purchase price. Hey, Asmodee, if you get rid of our obligation of delivering this, then you can have the property. And maybe there was some price on top of that. But hopefully this is good news for backers of Cthulhu Death May Die, Forbidden Reaches, like me, and we will actually get what we ponied up for in that campaign. And so that's pretty exciting that we will get the game that we pre-ordered. I mean, I guess it's not, technically a pre-order, but that's, I always think of it as a pre-order, but, it is a little bit more risky than that because it's, far in the future and the game hasn't even been manufactured. And hopefully also it is good news for CMON and its employees, and that the sale of this IP will also allow them to continue to make games and continue on and have their employees be employed. I know they still have employees, and they just sold their headquarters, and so hopefully this allows them to sustain. They've sold a lot of different of their big properties. It'll be interesting to see if they do continue and what that looks like, but I know that they have tried to make a priority getting what they promised that people have paid to get into their hands, and so that is super appreciated. So it seems like CMON's trying to do the right thing by us, and that is greatly appreciated. And I think this is good news for Cthulhu Death May Die Forbidden Reaches backers. So that is the piece of news I just wanted to touch on, which I think is good. And now moving into B.E.L.O.W, The Asylum. So as I mentioned, I'm excited about this because of the designer, Tomas Holek, who designed S.E.T.I, which I think is some masterful design, and Galileo Galilei, which is more of a medium weight. I've enjoyed it. I haven't had enough time to play around with it. There's some interesting design choices with it. It's more medium weight, so it's probably never going to make it into my upper echelon of games, but I think it's a game I might be more easily able to get to the table, so that's always appreciated. It's nice to have games in that class. But I do tend to like heavier games for my personal taste. So looking at this. So B.E.L.O.W, The Asylum is a cooperative game. They describe it as a one-shot action horror board game. So this is not a campaign game. You're playing one game. You're trying to work through its problem and solve it and win and not have the world be taken over by horror and chaos. We're taking on the role of elite agents confronting unspeakable threats that lurk beneath reality. We're trapped in a world fractured by two parallel dimensions. And this is an important part of kind of the setup of the game. Uncovered the dark ritual needed to prevent the rise of the monstrous entity known only as the Monarch. Navigate the dynamically shifting map, unlock powerful artifacts, battle nightmarish enemies, and face escalating dangers. So you'll see here, they play with this concept of the two dimensions. On the left is the above, kind of the normal realm, and the below, the nightmarish realm. So, a lot of people make comparisons to the famous TV show. Now, unfortunately, Awaken Realms does an annoying thing where they don't make the rulebook available on the website, which is frustrating, and they've done that in many of their campaigns. However, you can watch playthroughs because prototypes are made available to content creators, not me, but other content creators, and you can ascertain the rules in a fair amount of detail from those if you watch those. And so I'm not going to go into great rules detail because I don't actually have the rules, but I'll tell you why I'm excited based on what I've seen from the campaign and the playthroughs. What I'm excited about is you're kind of navigating the above realm and the below realm. You're going through these portals that you use to move between the two different realms. So I just love that from a thematic perspective. I love theme in games and when the mechanics of the game incorporate those. There's also different events that may kind of like push you through from one realm to the other. The monsters may actually do that. And on each of the character boards in the upper right-hand corner, there's kind of a dial. And you do certain actions where you have to draw shimmer cards that move you around this dial. And when you hit the top of it, you're forced to move to the other dimension. I believe you kind of go to the same mirror room in the other dimension. So you have to kind of watch that dial and the risk of being forced to do that when you don't want to, because if you're trying to accomplish something on the above side, and then all of a sudden you're forced to the other side, you're going to have to figure out how to get back there to finish that, and you may all of a sudden be thrown into a room full of monsters. Of course, also, you may want to be thrown into the other dimension because you may want to get out of where you are. So that's a mechanic that you can kind of play with or watch out for, depending on what's going on. So I think that's really fun from a thematic perspective. The other thing that I think is really neat is that from the playthrough, the game is not about just beating the monsters down and fighting. This is Tomas Holek, and the games that I've talked about are very kind of Euro games. S.E.T.I is very Euro. You're using different resources and transferring them to different resources to get these things and accomplish these goals. The same with Galileo Galilei. And this seems no different. You're doing these different goals on different cards to basically get seals eventually, I think is the end game, is my understanding, that you then put in this wheel in the middle. There's an outer ring and an inner ring, and depending on where they are, dictates where you can place the seals. And you have to kind of work your way and you have to seal the central evil in before time runs out. I think there's a deck of events that when that runs out, you lose. And of course, if all your people, I think, are knocked out or killed, then you lose as well. And then also when you play seals here, you get different bonuses that are going to upgrade your characters or give different things. So that might be another reason why you choose different ones. But as you're going through and doing those different activities, there's kind of a Euro aspect to it because of these different resources. They're finite resources. How many of them exist in the supply? That's all you have. So you have to manage how you're using those to complete the different things and where they are on the board and when you put them down. And there's cards that can appear on the board that have those resources that you can use potentially towards different things. So it's that puzzle that you're working through more than fighting the monsters. And that's a very Tomas Holek thing from those other games, but it's put in this universe of this kind of asylum horror, kind of survival horror where you may not be able to fight the monsters. In fact, my understanding is kind of the main boss from the main game actually is not defeatable. And one of the characters that was available in the prototype, in fact, Chambers Oliver with the adorable cats. I'm in love with this miniature, and Awaken Realms does amazing miniatures, which is another reason to be excited about the game. And I am a big cat person, but he can send his cats around and they can actually push the enemies around. So to get them out of the way to reduce danger, or you sometimes need creatures in certain rooms to complete these different goals that you need to complete. So that's all working that puzzle. Another thing I'm excited about is the variability of the characters. So the game plays up to 4. It looks like in the core box, if you're doing on crowdfunding with the stretch goals, there's going to be 7 agents that you're going to get. And just looking at the ones that they're showing here, we have the Chambers Oliver with the cats that I mentioned, Agent Nakamura, Blade, so he is more physical attacky than the others, and he was also available in the prototype. He has this separate board for his blade that he kind of feeds the blade, and it gives him different abilities, so it has kind of a totally different mechanic and vibe. He also looks very surly. You have Penelope Rallis, so she's an archivist. She has knowledge for her occult powers. She draws these sigils to protect and destroy, so I imagine she could put sigils and maybe monsters can't appear there or something, so she has kind of a different mechanic. She's very studious, you can tell. You have Ellsworth Andrew, who's actually a vampire, and it's a little unclear what this means exactly. It says sacrifice a part of yourself and then get it back from your enemies. And so there's a separate deck for the Bloodshot ability, but it doesn't really show you what it is. So I don't know what that does, but it's something different. It involves this special deck of cards that's just for him. So each of them has a different vibe and a different special thing they're doing. And I really like this Kiona Ledette. She has a whole voodoo thing going on. She has a snake. She's kind of holding this heart, fiend heart. And there's a voodoo vibe with it because if you look, there's a special board. And so there's control, push, attack. So it sounds like she can actually focus on an enemy, cause them sickness and misery, and take over their bodies, that she may actually be able to control some of the enemies. So that's really neat. They sound very asymmetric and each have a special thing they can do, which leads to fun interactions and replayability, especially with a couple extra characters from the stretch goals. You see the tiles are randomized, so there's some variability as well. There's different ritual rings to add some variety, and variety is good. Here it's just showing that you need to figure out the ritual. You have to get the different items in the corners to complete the ritual and fill in the cubes, telling us you can get all kinds of fancy bits instead of cardboard bits, of course, because it's Awaken Realms. Here it's showing us the special edition miniature, which does look very sweet, I do have to say. But the art on the standee versions is always really good as well with their materials. Here's some more. The needle claws, I think, look really neat. The needles stabbed into their back, and then their hands are the needles as well. Creepy nurses, it's a classic. I like that the fact that they have kind of broken masks, though, as well. What I did want to show, though, is that in the main box, you have that setup board and the randomized tiles, so there's variety there. But if you are doing the crowdfunding, the stretch goals, Awaken Realms has really stepped it up with the stretch goals and made them feel more worth it. Jumping into the crowdfunding campaign, which I think is a differentiation point for them, because with some campaigns nowadays, it's like, well, I could just wait and do I care that much? But here they give you a completely separate location, which is a boat with a new boss and minions to fight. So that's kind of cool. Completely different location, and they are double-sided as well. And also they just announced there's going to be a few more things they'll announce, I'm sure, but unscripted encounters. So it's these random events and things that you're just going to encounter as you go through to add some kind of thematic variety and things that'll pop up to just be, creepy things just to add some fun little twists and turns along the way, which I find very enjoyable. So for all of those reasons, I'm excited about this. There's all kinds of different pledge levels. You can either do that base box and just the stretch goals. There is an expansion with another location and boss that I'm not even going to show you. I'm just going to talk about why I'm excited about the game and kind of the mechanics and, the miniatures and all that. But there's a standing version as well. But, you can look at your budget. I can look at mine. We can figure that out. I'm just going to tell you why I'm excited about the actual game. Because for me, that's the most important thing. All the other stuff is really cool. And, I do love some minis when they tie into the theme. And that's great. But, are they necessary? Probably not, even if they bring us great joy. But they're probably not necessary. Anyway, that's why I'm excited about Below the Asylum. And I'll throw the link below in case you're interested. And I'm sure there's going to be late pledges as well. And next we have the latest expansion for Return to Dark Tower Expeditions. So I love to Return to Dark Tower. It's a cooperative game where you're facing the Dark Tower together. Each of you has your own hero with its own special abilities and virtues to fight against the evils and cleanse the skulls away and accomplish your different objectives around the board and fight the different evils that appear. So there were 2 prior expansions for this, Alliances and Covenant, and I love Covenant. It took Return to Dark Tower for me and made it a really great game. I liked Return to Dark Tower before. I like Alliances, but Covenant is where it really made the game shine to another level for me. So I was really excited to see what this expansion has. And so something that's interesting is the prior expansions, Alliances and Covenant, you had to play completely separate. They did not integrate with each other. But this Expeditions is kind of a separate board you see here. You put on the side and you're potentially putting resources towards moving around this board and completing an expedition. You kind of go in a circle around the board. You come back and you complete the expedition, you get rewards. They kind of walk you through that down here. You journey into realms, go through, you pay different resources, you get minor and major rewards to boost your party. And here you see from those expedition boards, you have the different token types for each of the 4 expeditions, and you actually get to place them on the board, and then you get to use these special actions as you've kind of unlocked them. With all of this, there's these new torments that go along with the evils from the tower that make it harder to fight them. And so with some of the rewards from the expeditions, you can negate those torments and make it easier to fight them. Now there's 4 different boards and they all have kind of a different flavor. So in one, you're kind of recruiting the Gasping Mountains, you're kind of recruiting, it says Guardians against the minions. Guardian statue, at the start of your turn, when a foe is in a space adjacent to a Guardian statue, you may pay spirit equal to the foe's level to remove the foe from the board. There's one with altars that harness powers of skulls. It says, when you remove a skull from a building, you may place it on a dark altar in the same kingdom as that building. When you take a heroic action in a space adjacent to a dark altar, you may return any number of skulls on the altar to the supply to gain a plus wild advantage for each skull returned. So you're kind of using skulls to your advantage. There's one Lotus workshop, so you can actually put these workshops out that give you, I think, abilities of different buildings. While in a space adjacent to a Lotus workshop, you may use your reinforced action to gain the free effect from any building. And then this one, Umberwood, Ancient Runic Manors, that let you reap the limitless resources. During your turn, you may spend 3 warriors while in a space adjacent to a runic manor to treat that space as having all terrain types. So that's pretty cool. That can help you eke out some more advantages there. These major minor rewards you see here. On the minor side, you can gain a gear from outside the games, all kinds of wacky shenanigans. You can gain the top card of the treasure deck, some potions, and then on the major side, you're actually getting some advantages, almost like treasures. After you reinforce at a Lotus workshop, you can spend a spirit to place a hero in any space, so almost like a teleportation spell, which is super powerful. You just get to remove a torment or gain a treasure, so all kinds of different options there. So that's that. And then there's also new heroes, which I am in particular excited about because I think these heroes look really cool. You have the Grizzled Mariner, so you have a spectral ship. And it's going to be in a different location. You can actually take actions from both of them, so you can accomplish things in 2 different places potentially. And your ship really can't be attacked. It's not considered like a hero, so it's not affected by foe events or like anything like that. The Enlightened Ascetic only has 1 treasure slot. However, he has 2 additional slots for virtues. And you get to choose different alternate locked virtues from like 5 different ones. And it only costs 4 spirit to unlock them. So you have all these extra virtues you can use. So he's very virtuous. And apparently some of them actually give you bonuses based on how many virtues you have. So being virtuous makes you even more virtuous, which gives you even more virtue. And the Clever Tinkerer, his banner action lets him take a gear card from the market. So just for free, just grab him because he's just out there like, oh, Like, I'm not taking from the market. I'm actually creating it out in the woods. And then she has these upgrade tokens where she can upgrade the gear. So here this one, spend this gear to gain +2 wild advantages. It's like a 1 gear upgrade, for example. And then the Jocular Druid, the banner action lets her change the terrain of the space she is in to a new terrain type. It loses the terrain type it had. The effect ends when you drop a skull in the tower at the end of your turn. Those are all really wacky and different, and they've done such a great job in the past with making the heroes super unique and fun to play with. So I may be more excited about the new heroes than I am the expeditions board. That may also be because I'm just not sure with the expedition board, it sounds like you're spending resources there to get different benefits and things. That's kind of what you were doing with the altars in Covenant, as in a way as well. And so I'm just not sure how it would integrate with Covenant. You're doing both of those things at the same time. Although maybe the optimal way to play Expeditions is just to play it as its own game. So maybe I'm thinking of it incorrectly, and maybe if you've played enough times, you do both of them, and that's part of the fun, is like trying to we would love to do this expedition and get that Lotus workshop, but we got to do this altar, and figuring out a way to maximizing, can we get both of them if we do this and this and this, and it creates a even more complicated puzzle for the Return to Dark Tower pros. So maybe that's the way to think about it. And something I think is also really exciting is new gear. 6 new gear cards. It's been the same gear in the game. So now you're going to have these to mix in, and it says you can randomly choose them as the starting market. And so I think that's fun. New gear to change that up. So it's not always the same gear sitting there. I think it's a pleasant change as well. So that's all the stuff with Return to Dark Tower Expeditions. Very excited about this. My only hesitation is that it's been hard for me to get Return to Dark Tower to the table, and so we'll see. I'm definitely excited about it. That's why it's in the board game fun phase. Of course, if I had unlimited money and unlimited shelf space, I think it would be a no-brainer. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll see. So those are the things I'm excited about this week. Let me know your thoughts on Below the Asylum and the Return to Dark Tower Expeditions expansion, whether you're thinking about those, if you have any thoughts, positive or negative about them, where you're at with them. Would love to hear any of that. And if there's other things you're excited about this week that you think I should take a look about, knowing my taste, of course. If you've seen what I have on the channel, what I'm interested in. And with that, if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. It's very meaningful to me when you do that. And as always, just remember, the only rule is that there are no rules, except, of course, in board games.